Our top story this morning, a wildfire is burning this morning south of Albuquerque. Lightning caused it last night. About 100 firefighters from Vaguita, the BLM, and the State Forestry have been battling it. The fire is burning just south of New Mexico Highway 60 and 47 in the Los Pinos Mountains. The Vaguita Lieutenant Mike Lane provided these pictures and all the information. He says no structures have burned so far, but we are monitoring the fire closely and keeping you updated. APD Chief Gordon Eden told us the department had key video of the controversial shooting of James Boyd in the foothills.
Yeah, then later he backtracked and he refused to confirm that. Now we know this key video doesn't even exist. APD says it does not have any video or audio from Officer Keith Sandy. He's the one highlighted here, the first officer to fire on James Boyd in the foothills back in March. That raises a lot of questions, says Joe Kennedy, the Boyd family's attorney here.
It's a highly suspicious coincidence of all the video cameras out there that this one would malfunction, and all the other video cameras seem to be working fine.
We specifically asked APD if the camera malfunctioned or if Sandy turned it off at some point during the standoff. No one has gotten back to us with the answer to any of those questions or the answer to if Sandy will be disciplined. Well, a log shows Officer Sandy's camera was tagged into evidence, but Joe Kennedy, the attorney, says in an interview with police 2 days after the shooting, APD did not ask Officer Sandy if he recorded any video on it. As you may know, Officer Sandy has a controversial past. He was hired by APD in 2007 after state police fired him for time card fraud. Now, as for the other officer who shot at James Boyd, this is Dominic Perez's video. He did record the shooting from his helmet cam. That is the video APD released after the shooting, and it sparked outrage here in Albuquerque and all over the country. And this is the second time in weeks APD has told us it's been unable to recover video from a deadly police shooting. Back in April, Officer Jeremy Deere shot and killed Mary Hawks, just 19 years old, and a suspected car thief. Last month, APD confirmed there is no video from Officer Deere's lapel camera, but police still haven't said whether Deere turned that camera on or not.
Protesters against APD clashed with staff at Hotel Albuquerque. Inside, Police Chief Gordon Eden was addressing a group of business leaders, telling the group that he took the chief job to try and reform the department. It happened yesterday. Protesters were demanding immediate changes and urged the chief to resign. Things got heated when a member of the hotel staff allegedly pushed one person and knocked the cell phone out of the hand of another protester. The hotel is investigating the alleged incident. UNM professor David Correa will be allowed to return to city council meetings. You see, he was banned from City Hall, but a judge has reviewed the case and ruled that Correa can return to city council meetings, but he is not allowed at the mayor's office. Correa was one of 13 people arrested during last week's protest at the mayor's office. He pled not guilty to the felony charge of battery on a police officer for allegedly shoving a cop in the chest. A day after a massive $6 million settlement was reached against APD for a deadly shooting, the DA is offering up her side of the story.
District Attorney Carrie Brandenburg says the case she was given was flawed from the get-go, and what the judge in the civil case said is the opposite of what she found. Listen.
I have to tell you, honestly, I thought there was civil liability.
A civil judge found wrongdoing in the deadly shooting of Christopher Torres back in 2011, but Carrie Brandenburg says there is still not enough evidence to seek criminal charges against the officer who fired his weapon. Well, Judge Shannon Bacon rejected claims the two officers were acting in self-defense.
I have no reason not to believe that, given all of the facts of the case and given the law.
Officers Richard Hilger and Chris Brown claim Torres resisted arrest, and during a struggle, he reached for Hilger's gun. That is when Brown shot him 3 times in the back in his own backyard. In the civil case, eyewitness testimony contradicted the officer's story. But Ms. Brandenburg says in the case she was given to review, the officer's statements were consistent with other evidence, and that's what she had to rely on. She says the judge was allowed to hear new testimony from all parties, and eyewitness statements were inconsistent. If new evidence arises supporting a criminal conviction from the civil case, Ms. Brandenburg says she'll consider reviewing it.
In a couple of hours, APD Chief Gordon Eden will get some support from an unlikely source. Dog, the bounty hunter, is defending the chief in a radio interview scheduled to air at 7:30 this morning on Power 106.7. The station's DJs, Double J and LB, thought they were going to interview Dwayne Dog Chapman about the new season of his show, Dog and Beth on the Hunt. But then Dog switched topics and started talking about Albuquerque's police chief. Listen.
My good friend from Michigan, he's a tough cop, is the new police chief in Albuquerque. You're very lucky to have that guy. He is like the top echelon in law enforcement.
Okay, so Dog told Double J and LB of the radio station that he and the police chief are good friends and that APD protesters should keep quiet until they, quote, walk a mile in the chief's moccasins, end quote. New Mexico's water systems could go through a major change if our two U.S. senators get their way. Senators Tom Udall and Martin Heinrich are introducing a bill today that would allow the U.S. to buy water from farmers. This could keep water in the rivers, helping fish and avoiding environmental fights. And it could help farmers as well. But letting dams and water agencies store water from the summer rains and release it periodically throughout the year, that is what they are talking about and discussing.
New Mexico is being called a wild card in the race to win Tesla's $5 billion Gigafactory. According to the Reno Gazette-Journal, John Boy, the site selection expert, is helping businesses find the best place to build. He says a case can be made for both New Mexico and Arizona as possible Tesla sites. New Mexico's appeal is our space industry, he says, because Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk, also builds spacecrafts. Mr. Boyd thinks the two leading contenders may be Reno and San Antonio. That would be Nevada and Texas. New Mexico is one of 5 states in the running. Tesla is not expected to make a final decision, until the end of this year. Meanwhile, Tesla's owner, as I mentioned before, Elon Musk, is now showing off what could be the spaceship of the future at the museum in Washington, D.C. It's from Musk's company, SpaceX, which has a contract to launch rockets from Spaceport America in TRC. That could be his draw to New Mexico. Yesterday, Mr. Musk showed off the Dragon B2 to Congress, including New Mexico Senator Martin Heinrich. Even got to climb inside of it. Mr. Musk hopes one day it'll carry astronauts and scientists into outer space.
Some hungry little bugs are making a big stink here in New Mexico, and it's not because of how they smell. They are called stink bugs, but the issue here is that they are chomping on organic vegetables and sucking the nutrients out of them. Bok choy, mustard greens, cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli are all food for them. Well, now New Mexico State University is trying to do something that it hasn't done before, which is find an environmentally friendly way to take care of the stink bugs. The school says farmers should physically cover their crops to keep the bugs away, at least in the meantime.
Yeah, so
Pesky little stink bugs.
oh yes, they are. I mean, hey, they kill our fruits and vegetables. So what they're doing is that they're getting these plants out there that attract the stink bugs more so than the broccoli and the cabbage. So they're trying to get all of them rounded up over there and then just take care of them in an environment-friendly way. Yeah, trap them and do that. And then they're trying to find some sort of eco-friendly pesticide.
You know why they're called stink bugs? Do they stink when you squash them?
One can assume yes, but I hate to
so.
assume.